Gavin.
Hi, Louie.
Welcome, everyone, to the Mixed Reviews.
Absolutely. It is the first episode of the new year.
Yeah, it is our first fresh episode.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I guess we did do
We did our wrap-up
Yeah.
on the last episode, but, we weren't talking about anyone in particular and specific.
We were talking about the concept of the year 2019.
Yes.
Yeah.
And all of its fictions, rhapsodizing, if you will. But this is our first episode where we're back to our classique regular form. And so we don't have a Twitter poll for you.
No.
We will have one next time. Do we have any old business we want to get out of the way?
No. I mean, it's funny. Not a lot of people even wrote into us to tell us what their favorite film was of the last year.
But I mean, I think we're still in shock. We're still mourning from the Oscars. I think this is maybe, you've said this for a long time, that the Oscars are garbage and like nonsense.
I'm just not an Oscars person. I mean, I want people to win accolades for their things.
Right.
But, I personally pit art against each other because that's what I do, but I don't think it's fundamentally really useful to try and be like, this is the best of the best.
I think and I was talking to my friends about this. I think I think awards are useful in the sense that, it is a platform for more people to see things, right?
Yeah.
That reflect, like our human nature or whatever. So it is important, and it would have been amazing to see Jennifer Lopez win an Oscar for the Latino community. It would have been amazing to see Awkwafina and The Farewell be nominated.
Yeah.
It's no one needs to see Martin Scorsese get another nomination. It kind of cheapens especially when we were talking such a diverse year of filmmaking and movie making.
Absolutely.
And it's a shame when our highest awards, whatever, doesn't really reflect that back to us. But luckily,
anyways, can't wait to see Todd Phillips win everything. Roll up with that Joker, just every single thing.
I'm scared to watch the Oscars. I don't even know if I'm.
Maybe
we won't, guys. Okay, just come over. We'll get drunk.
Yeah,
it's fine.
We'll have a meetup.
Yeah, we're watching Hustlers.
Yes.
And that's it.
It's a Hustlers Uncut Gems double feature.
There you go.
I guess, real quick, before we move into our subject of this week, I should say, this is the Mixed Reviews.
Hi.
We're a film podcast in which we talk about an actor, an actress, a director, or a film genre, and we talk about the good and we talk about the bad, and we give you a complete history.
Yes.
It's a bit of a filmic dissection, if you will.
Filmic dissection. I like that.
It sounds gross, but also accurate.
Yeah, we take 2 weeks, pick a subject, watch as much as we can, come back, give you a little this, a little of that.
I wish you guys could see the shoulder moves.
Yeah,
were those Fosse originals?
I mean, I've been known to cut a rug, if you will. To tip tap, to dabble.
I didn't realize we had Gwen Vernon with us, everybody.
Oh my God. All I can think of now is Michelle Williams with her hands.
That's actually maybe the huge problem that we're going to have at the Academy Awards is nobody's going to make a good fucking speech like Michelle Williams has for the last couple of years at the Golden Globes. So.
I know. Who's our only hope? Laura Dern.
Laura Dern, maybe. She's going to get up there and be like, tall women everywhere.
We rise.
Yeah, exactly. I found out she's 5'10".
Wow.
The other day.
She's taller than me.
Is she really?
I'm 5'9".
Oh. I'm 6, so.
I'm a medium-sized person, okay? I'm not a short king. I'm not a tall.
When I ordered a co-host, I ordered a medium. Thank you.
And here I am. I should get the dryer.
Yeah. All my fucking t-shirts. Oh, wait, no, I'm just getting fatter. Anyways, this week...
Who are we talking about this week?
We're here to talk about Alfre Woodard.
We're here to talk about Alfre Woodard. What a interesting topic for us, I think.
Absolutely.
She is currently in a movie that's out called Clemency.
Yes, a movie that I think a lot of people had on their Oscar polls is doing better than it did at the nominations.
Yeah, it came and went. It was really late in the year. I think it came out after Christmas.
Yeah.
But it's got lost in the shuffle. But Alfre's had such a long career and a varied career. She's in Star Trek. She's in Southern Gothic dramas.
Yeah.
She's, in very specifically Black-centered movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
She was in Desperate Housewives.
Yeah, for a season.
Yeah. What when you think of Alfre Woodard, what does that conjure for you, Gavin?
I think the thing that I find that's most interesting about her is looking at the things in her career that she's picked, is I think she's very choosy about coming up with a character that is believable and has a point of view in their life, whether it be political, whether it be, romantic, that she finds that core and puts it in everything that she does. And I think that's what makes her such an interesting, because she essentially, we started talking a little bit about this before the show. I think we both ran into the issue that we sort of had when we did Stanley Tucci, where she's a character actor. Mm-hmm. She will take a small role if she wants, but she does a really good job in shining in it. Which is not to say that she's somebody who plays herself. I don't think she's ever played the same character twice.
No.
Really.
I mean, I think she definitely is sometimes pigeonholed into strong authoritarian black woman. Yeah. Sometimes I do think she's tokenized.
Oh, I think so too. I've actually found an interview where she said,
people say that I'm a good actor, and they've said that for a long time, but they never ask me to do something unless the script says she's 5'5", she's medium brown skin, she's, not fat, she's not skinny, she looks like an African American, she talks like this. I mean, it has to say that or they won't ask me generally. Mm-hmm. Now, do I want Helen Mirren's job as the Queen of England? No, I can't be the Queen of England. But if you say I can act, then you should have called me about all the other things that didn't say the woman has to look just like a Windsor. Mm-hmm. So I think I've done well with what I've been asked to do, but it's a big loss that I didn't get asked to do things that I was really capable of doing.
I mean, the thing is also she is instantly recognizable. I think a lot of people will be like, if you don't know her name, you show her a picture and you're like, oh yeah, I know her just from she has a very recognizable face.
Very recognizable voice.
Yeah. We were just watching a video of her and doing a play, and the thing that struck me is that her voice, she's such a good vehicle for good writing.
Yeah.
She's an excellent actress, but I think just her voice is just like this brown sugar, slow, and she's from Oklahoma, so she's got this southernness to her. And it's really just soothing. And I think she's very good at playing a mom.
Yes.
I would love a hug from Alfre Woodard. Because she's that stern but compassionate. I think she's a very empathetic actress.
Yeah, I think that's sort of what I was trying to say, even though it was a little sloppy about her core. We've often talked about actors on the show who sometimes think, drama is big and it's screaming and it's intense. And I think she has those moments, obviously, because everybody has those moments in their life, the breaking point. But it's not a ton. Mm-hmm. And I think what it is she takes everything in.
Yeah.
And sort of lets it brew in that core. And then it comes out and it's thoughtful and it's measured.
I had a little success. I'd done a couple of TV movies and all, and I'd worked for Bob Altman. And my father saw something, I was doing a lot of dramatic stuff. He said to me, he goes, I know everybody's saying you were really good in that. I think I got an Emmy nomination. He goes, he said you're really good in that. And you were, but he said, I think you act too hard. And I said, what? He goes, you act too hard. It's too much. And I said, well, Bob Altman and Jan Kadar don't think that. He goes, yeah, but I'm your daddy. They don't know. So that haunted me. The next time I was on set and I was doing something that called for drama, I heard you act, and I was like, I'm going to kill him. So my father's voice told me. But the funny thing about it was he said, if you he says, just pretend you doing all that. He goes, you mess around, you lose your mind. He said, those people won't even do anything about it. I was like, okay. Don't act too hard. Don't lose your mind. I haven't taken that to heart, though, obviously.
The best example is she famously is in Civil War, Avengers Civil War,
yes.
Captain America Civil War, whatever.
Captain America Civil War.
For one scene.
Yeah.
And it is very affecting. Okay, what am I trying to say? I don't think the movie is the best movie of all time or whatever. I'm not trying to say Civil War is so good or whatever. But I think they said, we need to find someone to play a mom who could convincingly tell Tony Stark that you have failed. Yeah. You killed my son. It is because of you and your decisions that, like, the Avengers suck and, like, fuck you very much. And she has one scene to get it done.
Yeah.
And it's not a long scene.
No.
And they fucking put Alfre Woodard in it. And I was like, done. I mean, she knocks it out of the park.
It's so funny, too, because I think that, I completely agree, which is not, I'm going to slightly shift. I think it struck people in an interesting way, too, because she was already involved in a Marvel property, which is another testament to her power, is that you can place her in, you know, Luke Cage, where she's playing Black Mariah, or, you know, Civil War.
I forgot about Luke Cage. Yeah. And holy shit, that was good.
And playing a completely different character and not have it feel out of place in your continuity, in your, you know, cinematic universe, quote unquote.
Right.
That you have this person who's playing multiple roles.
And what's wild though is like both those characters are moms.
Yeah.
But like Black Mariah is evil. Like and she plays it like so slinky and like you believe she's a dangerous woman, Ariana Grande. And then the complete opposite in this other nameless role really in Civil War, where it's like the frustration and horrors of a mother who has, you know, lost a son. But all good things. Let's just get into our rewind, yeah?
Absolutely. Alfre Woodard was born November 8th, 1952, which means she's just had a birthday a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Alfre. We're on a first name basis.
Mm-hmm. You and Alfre.
She is incredibly accomplished, as we've talked about many, many times. She was nominated for an Academy Award and a Grammy Award, and she's been nominated 18 times at the Emmy Award. She's won 4, and she's won a Golden Globe and 3 Screen Actors Guild Awards. So she's, you know, racking up those. Yeah,
she's beloved by the community that she is in.
So she was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma, to Constance, a homemaker, and Marion H. Woodward, an entrepreneur and interior designer. She is the youngest of 3 children, the baby. One of my favorite facts is that she was a cheerleader in high school, but not only was she a cheerleader, she was head cheerleader.
Uh-oh. I could see that.
Yeah, absolutely. Woodward attended Bishop Kelly High School, a private Catholic school in Tulsa, and graduated there in 1970. She studied drama at Boston University, and she graduated from there as well. It's funny, I listened to her talk about, and I'm going to butcher this anecdote, so I'll probably just insert a clip, but I listened to her talk about improv exercises at the Catholic high school.
I remember it was my first play. It was Peter Weiss's Investigation. And nobody, so she was holding, like, everybody had to, improving. And so we were all divided between the Nazis and all the defendants. And nobody wanted to be the Nazis. We'd be like, 15, 16, let me be the Nazi. And she said, back then they wore habits, and she was like doing her rose when she says, oh, don't think you can't be a Nazi. Nazis are not born. I see your little fascist ways out in the courtyard here. Don't tell me you can't be a Nazi. And Lord knows we are learning just every day in every country we live in that fascism creeps.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that was a really interesting formative thing for her, because I think it taught her that there is a judgment and a kind of a sense of self-righteousness in everybody that may lead you in the wrong direction.
Right.
She has said several times that she is an activist first, not just an actor. She's been doing activism since she was in her teens.
Okay, so I have been a social activist since I was 14. And so it preceded me discovering I was an artist. And so my sense of being an artist is completely rooted in my activism and my spirituality. That doesn't mean that I don't go out and do, political plays on the corner, but I will do street theater if it's good, and I have done it.
And you can see that in a lot of her movies.
Absolutely.
All the roles that she chooses, not all, but like a lot of the roles she chooses in small, tiny little films, you can tell, I'm like, oh, there is a definite political bent to the story. She's trying to say something.
Oh, absolutely. So she made her professional theater debut in 1974 on Washington, D.C.'s Arena stage. In 76, she moved to Los Angeles. When she came to Los Angeles, she was instantly told there are no roles for black actors. And she just said, I'm not a fool. I know that, but I know my craft.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Yeah.
Good for her to fucking shut those people down. Her breakthrough role came in the off-Broadway production of the play, the original cast of the play, Four Colored Girls Who Have Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Is Enough in 1977. We watched the film version of that for the Whoopi Goldberg.
Horrifying.
And it's so funny because that play is classic.
Yeah.
And really...
Wasn't there was just one off-Broadway at the Public.
At the Public.
Yeah.
I would go back and listen to our Whoopi Goldberg episode to hear our thoughts on the film.
It's bad.
It's bad.
It's in the hands of Tyler Perry.
Yeah.
So, that's all you really need to know. And if you know his politics and his thoughts on, I don't know, women and gays and things of that nature.
Her film debut occurs in 1978. It's a thriller called Remember My Name, directed by Alan Rudolph. But in the same year, she also did a play called The Trial of Moke. It was aired on Great Performances on PBS and co-starred Samuel L. Jackson. And, it's this play about the first black cadet to graduate from West Point and sort of a trumped up trial that he was brought up on. But her character is really interesting because he is a very light-skinned black man who feels that his place is to represent other black people in this white world. And her character is sort of like, just be,
it's
you
the whole
should be yourself.
Yeah, it's the hard thing of like, you're trying to run away or trying to marry a white woman, you're trying to be part of a world that will never love you, will never accept you. And, we are who we are, Kesha. I'm going to keep going all the episode.
You want me to be uppity and high tone, like that Molly Riley. Everybody knows what you wanted with her. But she turned you down, run off with one of her own kind.
That remark is beneath my contempt.
Oh, stop talking so fancy. You want to chase after white women, make a fool of yourself, go on. But don't you dare say it's my dress you don't like, or my earrings, or my flower water. What you don't like is my skin. And I could scrub it, and it'd still be too black for you.
In 1980, she was one of the ensemble of the Robert Altman film Health. This film it's on YouTube. It's a little hard to find because technically 20th Century Fox never released it. It's not great, but I don't hate it. And I think Alfre Woodard is really amazing in it. Then she starts doing a bunch of TV. In 1983, she stars, in her first big non-really ensemble role in the movie Cross Creek, directed by Martin Ritt.
Yeah.
With Mary Steenburgen.
She will work with her many times over her career.
One of the things I love about Alfre Woodard is and we run into this every now and then, but there seems to be a stable of people in her orbit that really, she gets cast a lot with Mary Steenburgen. She gets cast a lot with Mary McDonnell.
Yep.
She shows up in a lot of Lawrence Kasdan films, Robert Altman early on. It's interesting to see Robert Downey Jr. is another person that shows up in a bunch of her life.
Civil War.
Yeah, exactly. And she's very good at starring in one scene with him because she's also in The Singing Detective for a scene. It's just a couple scenes, but there's only one where she has dialogue.
Cross Creek is very indicative of what I think a lot of her career, I don't want to say it's a starting point that I don't know if the system or in this movie, she plays I don't even know how to describe her. She's a working, bayou kind of simple woman. Yeah. It's a very Southern Gothic drama where Mary Steenburgen's character is
she plays the author who ends up writing The Yearling and
Yeah.
Jacob's Ladder. And so she's this woman who essentially appears at her doorstep and is like, I want to clean your house.
Yeah.
And then just becomes her best friend and lives with her.
Right. But the way she's painted is very, like uneducated.
Yeah.
She's a home, she cleans. She's, she has a very strong, not only Southern dialect, but, almost borderline like slavery dialect.
Yeah.
But it's set not in slave times. But it's just, and this is a type of character that, I mentioned 1985 earlier because she was in Go Tell It on the Mountain.
Yes.
Which a huge cast. And I don't know. I think as we go and talk more about these movies, there are moments where she is asked to play a type of black woman when you can tell that is in service of a white story.
Yeah.
Compared to playing a black woman in the service of a black story. And I was like, it makes me feel so gross or uncomfortable when, probably white directors are like expecting a certain performance from a person of color, compared to a movie that is clearly in the hands of an African American community. And, it feels a little bit more, I don't know what's the word, but it feels a little more authentic.
Yeah.
I've been watching how you do it. But you a woman, and you live by yourself, and don't nobody take advantage of you. That's something I learned off of you.
But she gets a nomination for an Oscar for this movie.
I was just going to say, so she's nominated for her first and only Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actress. But I do want to build off what you're saying, and I don't want to lose ourselves in the timeline. But one of the things that frustrated me is exactly that. The other thing, which I think grows out of that, is there are other films, more modern set films, where she's essentially playing the same role, but not in the same way, not in the Southern kind of, not very smart dialect, smart characters with full lives, but their life only exists to serve the story of a white man.
Yeah.
And this happens over and over again. She'll appear in films, even films I liked. I mean, Mississippi Grind, she's in a scene, but like it's a movie about white people, and it seems like she's only there in service of that. Mumford was another one where it was just like, I don't understand why Alfre Woodard's in this movie. Like, this unremarkable white man is the subject, and it just,
yeah.
And it's the same thing where I just kept thinking, like, these are white male directors and writers who've written these roles without thinking about the microaggressions that come along with it.
Yeah.
As a grown African-American woman, and especially as a woman who has been in cinema and television for the past 46 years, I experience microaggressions, not only daily, but hourly. But the way that I have kept my joy is in a constant state of forgiveness. Because most people don't mean to be a dick. Most people don't mean to be a jerk. Most people don't mean to be really vapid. So if they come off that way, give them a chance, because hopefully we're all learning. It doesn't mean you look over things. If you feel like it, if you're not tired, maybe explain it. If you don't feel like explaining it, just let it go, but don't take offense, because offense is baggage.
It's difficult because I think once this movie comes out, she's kind of known as this Southern. She's really good at being Southern.
Yeah.
And being in these gothic or dramas about black people in the South. And I think she's very good at it. I just think there are times, like there are movies that just work better and utilize her better, and are not just kind of like using like tropes, or I don't know. Watching Cross Creek was hard.
Yeah.
I think I think she's good in it.
I thought everybody was good in it. I also found the movie, besides hard to watch, also incredibly boring. I'll be honest. I feel like that type of biopic, especially when there's not a lot of dramatic tension involved, doesn't really.
Even in that movie though, like the main character, is like, leave me alone, I just want to work. And this man just keeps like being like, no, you're being a bitch, like why? And just let me like love you. And I was like, ew. And in the end, she's like, you know what, you're right. And I'm like, what the fuck? So that's Cross Creek.
Also, so she doesn't win the Academy Award, and she never gets nominated again because we live in a fucked up society.
Wild.
But in 1983, she does go on to win her first Primetime Emmy Award when she does a 3-episode arc as Doris Robbins on NBC's drama Hill Street Blues. She does a ton of TV after that. She's nominated for Primetime Emmy Awards for her roles in the films Word by Heart, Unnatural Causes in 86, and A Mother's Courage, the Mary Thomas Story in 89. In 86, she also stars opposite Farrah Fawcett in Extremities, which is based off a 1982 off-Broadway play. It's all right. I watched it. I had to I had to rent it from Amazon, but I
didn't see it, but I mean, that was when Farrah Fawcett was
big. And Farrah Fawcett does, not to delve into Farrah Fawcett leads a couple of films around that era in which she's like the victim who then like has to turn the tables. Then, I mean, I guess if you're gonna make a career out of it, but she wins a Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Guest Actress in a Drama Series for her performance as a dying leukemia patient in the pilot of LA Law. So she has like all these sort of fingerprints everywhere. And then she gets cast from 1985 to 86 as a series regular on St. Elsewhere. She plays the role of Dr. Roxanne Turner, who's, very strong and independent, but also played as kind of a love interest for Denzel Washington's character on the show.
It's wild because like during this time, there weren't a lot of people who were going back and forth between TV and film.
And I feel like it was often seen, and we've talked about this in a couple other episodes, it's often seen as doing TV was lesser, especially in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
You could transition from TV to film.
Yeah, but going backwards.
But going backwards was never. Nowadays, it's less because we're in the golden age of television. Everything's a prestige drama.
And, Alfre was doing it for ages, honey.
Absolutely.
And snatching trophies, okay?
She leaves the show after a year, but comes back in 1988 to do a single episode and gets nominated
Holy shit.
at the Emmys for Guest Actress. In 1987, she does an HBO film where she plays Winnie Mandela, the wife of Nelson Mandela, in the HBO film Mandela. Said Mandela many times now. So she spent a ton of time prepping for this role, watching news clips, listening to tapes of Winnie to match that South African accent, which is not easy.
Yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio. And, but she received a Cable Ace Award and an NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Lead Actress, for Mandela. And then she, from there, just bam, right back into movies. She was Scrooged in 1988 and Miss Firecracker in 1989. Did you see Miss Firecracker?
Don't talk to me about Miss Firecracker. It's one of my favorite fucking movies, okay? I have a DVD of Miss Firecracker.
I don't think I knew that.
The dramaturgy of me and Miss Firecracker, I took an American Women in Literature course in college, read the play. It's so good. And then when I found out there was a movie and it stars Holly fucking Hunter, and
man.
Mary Steenburgen.
Yeah.
And Alfre Woodard, Tim Robbins. Yeah.
And Scott Glenn. A small role, but good.
Everything about that movie.
Yeah.
Oh,
set in Yazoo City, Mississippi.
I know. And they filmed it there too.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That movie is a really interesting watch because I think everybody's a real powerhouse in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how, it manages to... there's scenes... the scene where Mary Steenburgen first shows up, and it's her and Holly Hunter and Alfre Woodard is, fire. It's... I don't know...
It's incredible.
Yeah.
We'll probably talk about it later.
Yeah. I genuinely love, Alfre Woodard's character in it.
So young in
oh my
there.
God.
Yeah.
Her character Popeye Jackson. Just I don't
That's
know.
how you fucking make a Southern movie.
Yeah. That tap dance too.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. In 91, she does Grand Canyon for Lawrence Kasdan. It's an ensemble drama. It's essentially Lawrence Kasdan's Crash.
It's something.
All about how LA is terrible, but for some reason everybody still lives there.
It's very literally
if I had to listen to another character tell me how awful the world is.
But but like they're saying it's so awful, but like also being like, yeah, black people are scary.
Yeah.
And like babies.
And the homeless problem, guys. Yeah, I can't run in the morning without running into a homeless person.
It's
like,
and how, I mean, it's all about like white liberal guilt, you know, and like, oh my God.
But
like,
not analyzing it.
No.
I mean, there's literally a scene in which Kevin Kline meets Alfre Woodard for the first time and instantly is like, can I set you up with my black friend?
Yeah.
And I thought that was going to be the upsetting part because it comes up later in the film. Mary Louise Parker mentions, she's like, how could you do that to her? And I was like, oh yeah, she's going to bring up the fact that he was like, saw this single black woman, was like, I can set you up with a single black man. And literally Mary Louise Parker's just like, how could you let somebody else fall in love in front of me without like thinking about me?
Right, yeah.
And I was just like, what the fuck is this movie?
The best part of that movie is when they go on their date and she's like, and it's Danny Glover.
It's Danny Glover, who's amazing.
And she's like, why do you think he set us up? And then he's like, we're probably the only black people he knows. And I was like, finally, a moment of honesty.
And that's it. That's the only... So, yeah, I mean, critics loved it at the time.
Ugh.
Times change, you know, and major box office success. In the next year, she reteams with Mary McDonald, who was also in Grand Canyon with her, for the John Sayles film Passion Fish. Oh, you have no idea how many takes that took.
I was so proud of you just then.
I edit this shit, and that was not easy.
That movie, I thought, like, at first I was like, what a fucking weird name for a movie. And then I started watching it, and I was like, I'm in.
Yeah, that's John Sayles, I feel like, doesn't get enough credit for essentially being... I think they think of it as a very 90s sort of, you know, like, independent film, black and white, grainy. There's obviously a much longer lineage of that. I think John Sayles is sort of a very classic Godfather-y figure in independent film. He makes these films that are largely character studies. They're usually bittersweet, but also, you know, darkly funny and full of these interesting characters. Mary McDonald plays a soap opera actress who is paralyzed, and she's kind of, she's not a nice person, and she just kind of runs through everybody in her life until she meets Alfre Woodard, who is a home care nurse, who is also a recovering addict and has her own story. And they kind of get along because Alfre Woodard doesn't sugarcoat shit for her. But I don't know. The really touching film, really sweet, and they're both amazing.
They're both amazing,
together.
and like they're both like kind of bitches to each other.
Yeah,
and they respect each other because of it, and they're just so funny. When she's trying to like get her to, you know, make her friends who are gawking to go away.
Miss Culhane, it's 2:15. It's time for your injections.
Right. My injections.
Oh, dear. Have we overstayed our welcome?
If I don't have the spasms, they only take about an hour.
Well, we were just passing through anyway.
And now we know where you are.
Do you think I'll need the restraints today?
They've been set up. Excuse us, please.
It's available on Amazon Prime right now.
Yeah,
if you want to watch it.
It's definitely worth a watch. Everybody was like, she's gonna get an Oscar. She's gonna get an Oscar. She's gonna get an Oscar. Not even nominated. But she got her first Golden Globe Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress, and she won the Independent Spirit Awards for Best Supporting Female that year. So, clearly she didn't go unnoticed. It's just frustrating that the highest board can't. The same year, she does a cute little romantic comedy called Heart and Souls with Robert Downey Jr., good friend. Well, I'm assuming this is where she met him. Cute movie. I've loved that movie since I was a little kid. And honestly, my favorite thing about it, I rewatched it, is still all the background interplay between her and Kara Sedgwick.
This is Robert Downey Jr. drugs or whatever.
Yeah, or probably at the same time. Yeah.
Pre-jail.
Yes. There is a scene in which Robert Downey Jr. does Alfre Woodard and she possesses his body. And I don't know how well, it's almost like Alec Baldwin playing Harriet Tubman on 30 Rock.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
we're there.
I'm going to pass some information on to you. You bozos outside got the trucks blocking my car in. My Rolls Royce.
What are you talking about? Where did you park?
What do you think? You listen to me? I just said I parked up between your trucks. That's why I can't move. Don't you give me attitude. I'm a mother.
She stars again with Danny Glover in 1993 in the film Bofa, and had a leading role in 1994's Crooklyn, which is Spike Lee directed.
Crooklyn, which I watched and I was like, that is the neighborhood in which I currently live.
Yeah.
Which was very wild and weird to see. And the movie came out in like 94?
94, yep.
And but the movie is set in like the 70s.
Yeah.
And so it's even weirder to think about like
the dissonance.
Yeah. The dissonance of the time of
because you're 20 years on.
Yeah. And watching this Spike Lee's 20-year looking back to the 70s. Crooklyn was I had never heard of it before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It was a couple of years ago, 2017, they had a big they put out 5 films to watch during simultaneous screenings in all 5 boroughs of New York City. And they were films like Woody Allen's Manhattan, and I'm trying to remember the other ones, but Crooklyn won.
Wow.
And there was, in 2017, there was 5 simultaneous screenings in all of the and I don't know. I loved it. I think it's a really special film. It's funny because I was like, this feels like this isn't, not that it's not like a Spike Lee film. It very much feels like a Spike Lee film, but it feels like a Bergman film in a way. And so I Googled, I was like, Crooklyn, Bergman, and other critics at the time definitely noticed that too. And I was happy. Also, his sister co-wrote it.
Oh.
And so I wonder if that helped bring, because it definitely has a more, it's a less linear quality than a lot of his other films.
It's very loving.
Yeah.
You know, it feels less, there's definitely like a Spike Lee,
harsh reality to
but it also has a lot of like love and tenderness I think to it, which is not.
And I think there's a school of thought where you could look at Alfre Woodard's performance as the mother of this family, where she's like strict and kind of like by the book. And I think the reverse of that is I think she's so loving that she's terrified for her children to go out in this world that is, which is not to say just New York City, the world in general, which is unkind to people of color.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, Rita, I cried.
Yeah.
It's a very good movie.
From now on, everybody's gonna start pulling their weight around here. Do you understand me? You know it's you make me crazy before I'll slap the black off you. This is no hotel. I knock them teeth in it tomorrow. You're gonna start cooking too. Get downstairs now. Go. Get out of my face now. Get out of my face right now.
She does a bunch of other smaller roles. Gun and Betty Lou's Handbag, which I watched for Julianne Moore.
Not I.
It's fun. It's bad. It has not aged well, but it's fun. Rich in Love, Blue Chips in 94. In 95, she does How to Make an American Quilt, along with many other powerful actresses, including Maya Angelou, who she'll have like a connection with for,
plays her daughter.
Yeah, she plays her daughter, and Alfre Woodard plays Maya Angelou's daughter. Not to get it twisted.
Yeah.
But it's interesting I feel like there's a connection there, throughout the rest of her career with Maya Angelou. Even goes so far as her character in Beauty Shop just constantly quotes Maya Angelou. 96, she takes a small role in the film Primal Fear as Judge Marion Shout. Good movie. It's a fun little mystery. Edward Norton's the standout in that film. But also in 96, near and dear to me, Star Trek First Contact.
There you go.
She plays Lily Sloan. Unfortunately, I rewatched it and I was like, oh, she's kind of only an assistant, which I thought was weird. And she's not really a damsel. I will say that. She definitely doesn't fall into the damsel role. There's not a ton of times where it's just like, oh, she's been captured and somebody has to come rescue her. But she's kind of a love interest for Patrick Stewart's Jean-Luc Picard. And the thing that has always killed me, and I'm pretty sure they say this on the writer's commentary on the DVD, he doesn't kiss her. In the end, he kisses her on the fucking cheek.
But
what's funny is Dr. Beverly Crusher, who's always been his main squeeze, the look she gives her before they beam away. I had not caught it before, and I was just like, Beverly's like, Doctor, fuck you, bitch.
Doctor, she's like, I'm gonna crush her.
Yeah, exactly. But I do want to talk about, just before we move off of Star Trek First Contact, I'm assuming you didn't see it. I'm sure you're not a Star
I think
Trek
I have
person.
seen it before, but I did not rewatch it.
It's with the Borg and time travel.
Yeah.
The thing that I like is I think another actor would have... So essentially First Contact is Star Trek's horror movie. It's not necessarily scary, but it's scarier than a lot of the other stuff they do. There's a scene where she's wandering down a corridor with Patrick Stewart, and he says, they won't bother us if they don't think you're a threat. So they're walking through all these awful machine-looking people, these Borg, and they keep like turning and kind of bumping into her, and she's like letting out little screams. And I think many times in horror movies, you see these scenes where like, shh, you have to be quiet.
Yeah.
We can't let them. And so I think another actor, they would create that tension of holding it all in and I love that she's just like, and it's such a clear like character choice for this character. Also, it's the performance that maybe she gets a little, she's like, I'm being dramatic by getting loud, but I love it. She gives the classic speech telling Jean-Luc to blow the ship up.
Oh, come on, Captain. You're not the first man to get a thrill from murdering someone. I see it all the time.
Get out!
Or what? You'll kill me? Like you killed Ensign Lynch?
There was no way to save him.
You didn't even try. Where was your involved sensibility then?
I don't have time for this.
Oh, hey, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt your little quest. Captain Ahab has to go hunt his whale.
What?
You do have books in the 24th century.
This is not about revenge.
Liar!
This is about saving the future of humanity!
Jean-Luc, blow up the damn ship!
No!
I think that and Gulliver's Travels were the first time I saw her as a kid. Gulliver's Travels was 96. She did the Hallmark miniseries with Ted Danson, Mary Steenburgen, and she plays the queen. The second place that he goes to in Gulliver's Travels, if you've ever read the book, is Brobdingnag. It's hard for me.
Could not help you.
She plays, so essentially the first land he goes to is Lilliputian. Gulliver, he's small.
Yes.
No, he's giant. Everybody's small. He's giant.
Yeah.
Next place he goes to, he's small. Everybody else is giant. She plays the queen of these people. And I kind of love because I don't think she often gets to play royalty.
Yeah.
And also great because it's fucking Jonathan Swift. The book was Jonathan Swift. She's curious about the place that he comes from, and she's asking him all these questions about law and poverty and food. And he doesn't understand because what she's essentially describing of their kingdom is that they're fucking socialists and everything's great. And
I don't get it.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, in England, it doesn't work this way.
In your courts, how much time is spent in determining between right and wrong?
Oh, trials last weeks or months, at great cost to those involved.
Doesn't it mean the poor have no recourse to the law?
Well, the poor are too busy working to need justice.
Do your lawyers ever plead cases which manifestly they know to be wrong?
Of course. That's their job.
And this amuses you, does it? To mock our institutions?
No, I was trying to defend them. That was the whole point.
You said your taxes raise more than 5 or 6 million, and yet the state spends more than double that amount. How can a kingdom spend more than it receives in taxes?
Well, that's simple. We just borrow more from ourselves.
I love her performance in it, and I love the, as you mentioned many times, social activist. I'm sure she loved fucking reciting those lines and being like, oh yeah.
Yeah. Listen up.
In 98, she landed a leading role as a single alcoholic mother from Chicago, forced to spend a summer with her uncle in Mississippi, in the independent drama Down in the Delta, which was directed by Maya Angelou.
Wow.
So once again, that connection to Maya Angelou. She was nominated at the Independent Spirit Awards for lead. Didn't win. 99, she does Mumford again for Lawrence Kasdan. Mary McDonald's also in the movie.
In 97, she did Mrs. Evers Boys, or Miss Evers
Boys.
Oh,
yes. Sorry. I totally didn't.
I only remember that because I was watching it, and I gotta say, I fell asleep, and then I woke up, and I was like, oh man, it's still going on.
Yeah.
It's a long movie. It's slow.
Yes.
What did you think of Miss Evers Boys?
It's good. I mean, I'll be honest, her performance is what really sold me on that movie. I haven't seen it in years, and I remember very much what you're describing. So
I was like, okie dokie.
But it's an important subject.
It's an important story.
Yeah. In the 1930s, the Tuskegee study of untreated blacks and syphilis. Yeah, it was a terrible thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's
horrifying.
And she brings such compassion and honesty to the role. But yeah, it's...
Well, I mean, I think I don't know enough about like the actual history of it all, but like they put this weird like love plot on top of it also. And I was like, what? Like for me, I was like, the horror of, you know, the government and these decisions is clearly the most interesting and compelling part of the story. And they kept making these turns for her and Lawrence Fishburne to like get together and like, oh no. And I was like, oh, why? Hollywood, why?
2000s comes around, continue like full force into the new millennium. What's Cooking? Love and Basketball, where she's the lead character's mother.
What's Cooking is so fun.
K-Pax, The Core, The Forgotten. A bunch of these are movies that we've watched for other, like The Forgotten's with Julianne Moore. Yep. She does Radio. She does The Singing Detective, Beauty Shop in 2005. And Take the Lead in 2006, which Antonio, and she's so good as the principal who hires him to teach dance at her school. She has a voice role in the Walt Disney film Dinosaur, and I think people forget about it because it's not like a flashy, but it's a beautifully animated film, and it was a huge hit. It was earned $349 million worldwide.
It was like when Disney was really trying new things out, since their like traditional animation had kind of you know, they were Dinosaur is like one of the first, like after Toy Story, like it's all CGI, right?
Yeah.
Like and it looks crazy.
And it was one of Disney's like non-Pixar CGI animated films. And yeah, it's a gorgeous looking film. I don't love it, I'll be honest, but I forget how successful it actually was, because I think people don't think of it as like the pantheon of Disney animation. She gets a Primetime Emmy Award for doing it was her fourth and so far final Primetime Emmy Award. She does 2 episodes of The Practice in 2003. You can watch these episodes on Hulu. I sure fucking did.
Wow.
She plays a schizophrenic death row patient who the warden of her prison asks for her not to be executed, and the trial that proceeds, and the gimmick, the idea her lawyer comes up with, played by Cameron Manheim's character, is to take her off her medication, because in the original trial she was found to be competent, and she wants to show she's incompetent. And then, like, spoiler alert, like, the judge rules, sure, as long as she doesn't take her medication, we can't kill her. But the moment you put her on her medication,
wow,
we're gonna execute her.
That's drama. Okay. ABC, The Practice. Tuesdays at 9.
Stars in Tyler Perry's The Family That Prays, because she's a black woman in Hollywood, so she can't escape the orbit of Tyler Perry.
In that movie, she also works with Sana Lathe, who also was in Love and Basketball.
Absolutely.
And God, what's the other? Like, there's 3 like black women in that. Taraji P. Henson.
Taraji P. Henson.
Yeah.
And she also, I wish it hadn't been this film.
Mm-hmm.
She works with Kathy Bates.
Yes,
and
that's right.
Kathy Bates is also an original Robert Altman person, and like, I would love to see them in another movie together.
Yeah,
not that one,
not this one.
She does so much TV towards the end of 2010. I think sort of the highlight is she takes the role of Ouija in the Lifetime remake of Steel Magnolias.
Yeah,
it's not good. She's fine. I find the whole movie has a slower cadence than the original Steel Magnolias, and I don't think it behooves the style of, because that's a fast. I've also seen that. I've seen that show on stage, and that show is very like quick.
Yeah,
and I find like for some reason it's the slowed down.
It needs to be tighter.
Yeah, and it just, and also like Queen Latifah produced it, and like good for her for doing it. I don't think she's the right Mei-Lin.
Right.
I think that's
it's a little miscast.
Yeah.
Because like you want, I mean, especially when you think of like the original with all those like kind of whippersnap. And, and there are like certainly black women who could do that.
Yeah.
But like it was just like the wrong direction and vibe.
This is it. I have found it. I'm in hell. Thurman, be quiet. I couldn't leave him at home. He'd tear that place up.
Morning, Weezer.
Don't try to get on my good side. I no longer have one.
This is the biter I told you about.
In 2013, she appears in Steve McQueen's drama 12 Years a Slave.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. This is essentially another one scene role, but it's a pivotal scene.
Mm-hmm.
And she's really fantastic in it.
I mean, it's just interesting. Like I when I saw Go Tell It on the Mountain, something like happened. I was like, man, this is a story about, modern, and when I say modern, it's like post-slavery Black people who are trying to make it in life, but literally their parents or grandparents were slaves and trying to, escape that and like the horrors of sin.
Yeah.
And she's in these flashbacks scenes, and so she's kind of like oh my God, what? There's like one scene she says something so crazy. She's like, oh, forget sin, whatever. Let's she basically just wants to fuck this guy. And they do, and they have a kid together.
She's really the voice of the audience in that scene.
There you go. But yeah, I mean, and that story, I was like, this is clearly made for a Black audience.
Right.
This whole story is about this Black family. And you could sense that. And then kind of similarly with 12 Years a Slave. And it's a good parallel, I guess, because in those roles, she is playing these slave women, but is not in the story is about these Black people. It's not about, a white.
Take comfort, Patsy. Good Lord will manage apps. In his own time, good Lord will manage them all. The Curse of the Pharaohs are a poor example of what wait for the plantation class. This is nice.
2014, in terms of film, she does Annabelle and Mississippi Grind. She also stars in the independent drama Knucklehead, playing an abusive mother. And I love the fact that she's not willing to shy away from these dark performances. She gives them her all. Also in 2014, she does the very short-lived NBC political drama, State of Affairs, where she's the
yes.
first female president of the United States, opposite Katherine Heigl, who's a member of the Secret Service.
Katherine Heigl's return to television.
Yeah, the less said about Katherine Heigl, the better. But good on Alfre for being the first woman president.
Yeah,
I'd vote for Alfre. That makes me sound a little too much like the people from Get Out, so maybe not. I'd vote for Alfre Woodard for another term if I could.
Uh-huh.
In 2014, she was inducted into the Oklahoma Hall of Fame.
Well deserved.
She said in her acceptance speech that she believes it is her responsibility to use her fame to help others less fortunate.
Great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. You mentioned she plays the very small role of Miriam Sharp in Captain America Civil War in 2016. And that brings us kind of up to nowadays. She's in the Michelle Monaghan movie St. Judy. She does Series of Unfortunate Events for Netflix. She plays Cookie Lyon's mother on Empire.
Oh my God.
In terms of films, she does Juanita for Netflix, which was written by her husband.
Juanita is a Kukuluku movie.
Yeah.
It's
she's also 20 years older than the main character in the book.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, that makes a big difference. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I mean, she can play younger.
Yeah.
But I was just like,
the movie just takes some big swings.
Yeah.
That are I was like, this, and it feels like a play. It feels like, because there are times when she literally looks to the she breaks the fourth wall. And she has these weird dreams with Blair Underwood.
Yes, Blair Underwood playing himself in his underwear.
Yeah. It's a weird little movie.
Yeah.
But good for her.
Yeah. I liked her more than I liked the movie. I don't think it's a bad movie. It's a very How Stella Got Her Groove Back sort of movie, but a little more independent film inclined.
Yes.
She ends up playing Sarabi in Lion King.
Mm-hmm.
This past year, I
putting that voice to good use.
Yeah, I didn't see it still.
Yeah,
I was just like, whatever.
I mean,
we know what she sounds like.
Yeah.
She's currently being able to be seen on the Apple TV series C with Jason Momoa.
Yes.
Where everybody is blind. It's a future where everyone's blind. Supposedly, she's going to be producing a upcoming 4-hour television miniseries about Fannie Lou Hamer, a voting rights activist and civil rights leader. So, in terms of her career, Doing all right.
She's done it all. She's done it all.
We mentioned Clemency. We'll probably talk about it more in the fast forward.
Yep.
She currently lives in Santa Monica, California with her husband, Roderick Spencer. They have 2 adopted children, Mavis and Duncan. She's a Christian Scientist, which I did not expect.
Never would have guessed.
Yeah. In 89, she became the founder and board member of Artists for the New South Africa, a nonprofit organization dedicated to combating the African AIDS pandemic and advancing democracy and equality in South Africa. The charities raised more than $9 million and provided health care to over 3,500 South African AIDS orphans. She's a Democrat.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously.
A strong Democrat.
Yeah. Supporter of LGBT rights and same-sex marriage. In 2009, she joined a group of American film directors and actors on a cultural trip to Iran at the invitation of the House of Cinema Forum in Tehran. This is interesting. I'm going to try and summarize this real quick as a last thing. She appeared in 2015 on TLC's Who Do You Think You Are? And that's a program, they do genealogy and whatnot. They found out that her great-grandfather, Alex Woodard, was born a slave in Houston County, Georgia in the early 1840s. At about 14 or 15, Alex was separated from his family when his master relocated to Jackson Parish, Louisiana. Historians helped Woodard locate evidence that Alex was assessed a poll tax in 1867, indicating he was registered to vote 2 years after the Civil War ended.
Oh.
By 1881, Jackson had purchased 80 acres of farmland in Jackson Parish. On April 15th, 1898, Alex Woodard and his wife, Elizabeth, sold their 80 acres to her brother, Aaron Stell, and they had moved to Wharton County, Texas by that time. And I often think of... Did you ever watch Atlanta?
No.
So there's this great episode in the first season of Atlanta where there's like a white guy who's throwing a party and he keeps talking to Donald Glover's character about lineage and how much he loves Africa. And finally he's just like, so where did you come from? And Donald Glover's like, oh, well, I came from this part of the country. And he's like, no, like, where did you come from?
Uh-huh.
And Donald Glover just goes, oh, well, I don't know, because there's this very spooky thing called slavery. And like, I can't imagine doing your lineage and being like, oh, my family was property.
Right.
At one point in time.
Yeah. But the end that they were separated from their family, bought and sold and moved around.
So I know that's like a very side conversation from what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Alfre Woodard on film, and I don't know. I just think everything that makes up a person informs them, their decisions, and she is an activist first, an actress
and I
second.
think, but also like, can you imagine? And she's an artist. She's someone working in theater and film and TV, and so many times called upon to play slaves or house women to help others and whatever. And she is standing on the history of her own family that lived this experience.
Yeah.
And so there is something, and I guess that's why when she is used to do that in ways that I think that are like ineffective and like disrespectful, it's that more like uncomfortable. But when she is deployed really well, and it feels like kind of like this, I don't know, this strong like triumph. That I think maybe that's like the root of like what you just said is the root of maybe why, where it's like, this is gross seeing her, have to put on this like affectation of a dumb, uneducated woman who's servicing, these white people, as opposed to, really acting the truth, and telling these stories that we shouldn't forget,
Right.
Like I've said this many times, watching 12 Years a Slave is hard, but we cannot forget, like, this is the true brutality of how things work.
Yeah, I would rather watch a movie that told me the truth than tried to comfort me.
And tried to be like, oh, this white lady is so nice to her.
Right.
Like, oh my goodness.
Right, exactly.
I had such a good, nice Southern white woman be like, we're going to help you, do better your life.
Yeah.
Ugh.
No, I agree.
Should we move into our 5-star reviews? 1-star reviews? What do you think?
Let's do our 1-star reviews.
Cool. So my pick is, and you didn't mention it in our recap, but I think we did mention it in our drag episode. And so this is 2000's Holiday Heart. Have you watched?
I did not.
Okay.
I saw that it existed.
It exists. It is available to stream now for free on Amazon Prime. It is directed by Robert Townsend, and it stars Ving Rhames as the titular Holiday Heart. He is a drag queen, in Brooklyn. He is,
oh boy.
Yeah. And he is the hottest thing in town. Also all you have to know about this movie is that the, poster, I mean, it's about a drag queen.
Yeah.
Like, period. The poster though shows Ving Rhames out of drag.
I had no idea.
And it's, and you know what? I just saw Alfre Woodard, was nominated for a Golden Globe for this performance. But not on my watch. Okay. Okay, let's just bring up the plot. Okay. So Holiday Heart is, a drag queen, there in Chicago. He's supposedly, allegedly, like the best in town. People love him, but he is dusty crusty. I'll let you, I don't know that they had any drag people say, hey, this looks crazy. He has this boyfriend. He dies. The whole ridiculata melodrama of this movie. I knew I was in trouble when, after the boyfriend dies, Holiday Heart shows up to the funeral in full drag and has a microphone and is singing and like is sobbing, and you're supposed to be like, I don't know. It's, to me, like, that scene is like, they're trying to be like, wow, people just like don't accept him because he was gay and like he's a drag queen. And I'm like, no, this man's yelling at a funeral in full drag. I'm not saying like a drag queen couldn't go to a funeral, perhaps, but
drag queens in all spaces, but
it like, he just not the message, not the right. Anyway, he befriends, Wanda, and that's Alfre Woodard, and she has a young daughter, Nikki, and Wanda is an addict. He befriends them, lets them move into his now very spacious house because his boyfriend has died. Wanda, though, gets back on drugs, and and the movie just does a lot of like punching down, I guess, to all three of these people, Nikki, Wanda, and Holiday.
Okay, I love him. All right? You satisfied? I want to have something that I thought I never would. A real family. No, Holiday, all my life I've been trying to get into the loop. I'm so tired of being different. I wanted to be in a family that I could be proud of. Like a man and a wife and a child.
You act like God picked you and only you to give a hard life to. Well, look around, baby, because it's a big world out there. And believe me, it's turning mostly on misery. The only thing saving any of us is the good Lord's mercy.
I am trying to talk to you. I don't want one of your religious lectures.
And I don't want your bullshit. How's that?
Alfre specifically, it is the only time that I saw where she's going the full yelling, bombastic, crazy. There's a scene where she's like on the phone and I was like, for the first time I saw Alfre like acting, you know, reaching and like, and it's hard to watch. It truly is hard to watch because I think like this is a movie that thinks it's doing something, you know? But honey, no. It was bad. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I remember like seeing it on like when we were doing the drag episode. I remember like seeing it on lists of like movies about drag queens, and I was like, oh, maybe not. But now I was like, oh, maybe I should watch it now for Alfre Woodard. And I can't. I mean, I cannot believe
it's hard to when you know somebody is so good at acting, and so like convincing in embodying their roles. I saw an interview with her where she kind of questioned whether she loses herself in roles or she's recognizable. And I think that's really important to her that she not be seen acting. I think that she wants to be believable. And yeah, it's frustrating, especially when you know what someone's capable of, to see that.
Right. And the movie does nothing for like redeeming this woman. I think this movie is very mean to her. I don't think it is like, I don't think I'm being naive when I say that this movie just doesn't, it's trying to that thing where it's like, it's real. All this is real. And it's like, I don't know if you're being real or just being very cruel.
Yeah.
Because whatever message you think you're sending is being lost with like all this horrible music, horrible editing. Like it's, and it's disrespectful, honestly, to, drag queens 1, addicts 2, and my eyes 3.
I'm gonna go with something that's a little less realistic, or trying for a little less realism, though, depending on what you believe. My 1-star review is 2014's Annabelle. Annabelle is a film. It's a spin-off of the movie The Conjuring, which I thought when it came out, I've yet to rewatch it, and I should at some point because I really liked it. Conjuring is, this first in a cinematic universe of horror movies in which this family is being haunted by a malevolent spirit. And I thought the way that it was made was done in this really sort of like old-fashioned 1970s horror movie style that you don't often see. I hate jump scares because I think the only people that don't jump at jump scares are maybe sociopaths who don't react.
Yeah.
But what I liked about The Conjuring was it felt like it, the thing that was scary was the scare that you saw coming and the thing that you were dreading. And Annabelle throws all that out of the window. Like I said, it's a spin-off. It's about an evil doll.
It's a doll, right?
Yeah. This couple, they're having a baby. The father brings home a doll. This woman and this other man break into their home and die because they're trying to bring a demon into this world. The demon possesses the doll and it needs a soul. This is all the very, very Cliff Notes. The family moves because their house is haunted by this entity and they think they can get away from it, and they move to an apartment building. Crazy shit starts happening there as well. Enter Evelyn, I believe is her name, which is Alfre Woodard's character, who's a bookseller who also lives in their building, who is in tune with the spiritual world because, well, she's black.
Right.
And
they do that.
Exactly.
That, yeah.
I don't particularly think what you're experiencing is the ghost of that girl.
Why not?
Well, ghosts haunt specific places, usually where something terrible has happened, like your old house.
We moved and it's still happening.
Which is why I don't think it's a ghost. But now that cult, you said that they were trying to summon something. From what I've read in the past, these cults, they don't summon ghosts. They summon inhuman spirits. Something that's never existed in the flesh.
Demons. What do they want?
A soul.
We've discussed this many times on the show. I think starting with our Will Smith episode.
Episode 2.
Yeah. The magical black person who comes in. So that's Alfre Woodard's function in this film. She tells them about the demons. She tells them how they need souls. Also, the film decides to get very judgy. Alfre Woodard's character lost a daughter that's about the same age as the main woman in a car accident, and she decided to kill herself. You know this because they do a nice big close-up of her wrist scar.
Oh, good.
And she tells this other woman, but my daughter came to me and said, it's God's plan for you to live longer. I'm going full out spoilers here because this movie is trash. I've heard the Annabelle sequels are better, but this one is so bad. This movie made me angry. I believe my Letterboxd review was a 0.5 star.
Wow.
And I said that like this movie makes me hate the fact that I care so much about movies because it's a blatant cash grab. In the end, the mother of the baby's like, I'm going to kill myself because this doll needs a soul. And they stop her, and Alfre Woodard's like, I know what my daughter meant, and grabs the doll and throws herself out the window and kills herself.
Holy shit.
Once again, also being one of the only people of color in the film.
Of course.
Sacrifices herself for the well-being of the white people.
Well.
It's...
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's frustrating. And it's a really thankless role. And I really feel like, we can't get into these people's brains. But I think Alfre was like, this is an easy 4-day shoot, week-long shoot. I can show up, do my 3-4 scenes, and just make the money off of this burgeoning franchise.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't feel connected to, even in her speech, we've talked about her being emotional, quiet emotions, loud emotions. She delivers her speech about her daughter in the most flat, she could be reading you the phone book. Or
she's like, yeah, you guys get that?
Yeah, exactly. Take 2 shits. No.
I'm ready to wrap this up.
Yeah, exactly. And it's frustrating to watch because it's interesting because you didn't like Holiday Heart because you could see the strings. You could see, the mechanics working, the gears turning, all the metaphors. I couldn't see any of that because it was watching a stalled machine.
Right.
She just showed up, and she's such a talented actor, and she deserves all the accolades that she gets. But, and I almost can't blame her because every now and then you gotta do a big budget movie that But even in Captain America Civil War, you said it yourself, she shows up and she blows you out of the water for a scene and then goes away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess, I will say Holiday Heart probably was made on a really tight budget.
Yeah.
But man, the material was so bad. Her, the hair, the wardrobe, all of it. I was like, what is happening?
Was it like that Tyler Perry movie that was made in 5 days? It's on Netflix now.
God, I imagine flexing like that.
Yeah.
Oh, you're really fucking rich and made a movie in 5 days.
Right. And Netflix will just put it out for you. But yeah, so Annabelle, real garbage, Holiday Art garbage. Was there anything else you saw was garbage? Because good transition point. Tyler Perry, The Family That Prays.
The Family That Prays.
I don't think did you say you didn't see the full thing?
I didn't see the full thing.
It's really bad because you've mentioned before, Tyler Perry movies have their morality plays.
Yeah.
This was maybe, of the ones that I've seen, which have only been a handful, is maybe the most soapy. It was 100% Dynasty. And Alfre Woodard is this woman who, she's struggling with money. She has family, her daughters, and she owns a restaurant, and her friend Kathy Bates is her white best friend who's very rich and is constantly paying for things for her. And she convinces her to go on a road trip with her. And essentially the road trip is Kathy Bates's early onset Alzheimer's. But it's very judgy because Kathy Bates is I want 2 tequilas at every bar and and driving the Cadillac. She's very free, and Alfre Woodard is very religious. And, the parts of the trip, Kathy Bates brings Alfre Woodard to a strip club. So Alfre Woodard the next day brings her to a revival meeting to get her baptized in a river.
What the fuck?
And then at the end, there's this moment where she's Kathy Bates' character always told me to live more, and I wasn't living, I shut down. But there's nothing to say that the movie wasn't being judgmental about Kathy Bates' lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's not Alfre Woodard's message is now so go ahead and drink those 2 tequilas. So
go to the strip club.
Yeah, exactly. It's the weirdest. His religious ethic moral code doesn't make any sense.
He bends over backwards to be so you see?
Yeah.
It's no, you fucking don't make any sense.
There's her daughter is having an affair with Kathy Bates' married son, and she gives this speech about how you can't, all she's doing is ruin 2 other people's happiness. And she can't be happy by ruining somebody else's life. And I was just I cannot.
Enough, Tyler Perry.
Yeah, exactly.
The only one that I saw that was was 2016's So Be It.
Okay.
She plays an agoraphobic woman who takes in a woman who is autistic or has a child, and they don't know her name. They can't really communicate. And then this child grows up and is trying to find out more about her mother and her family. There's a scene where they're come on, try and go outside. You can do it. And she's like, there's like, oh, and
this is a scene from my life.
You can do it, Gavin. Come on.
Come on.
Jake Gyllenhaal's dad directed this.
Oh, yeah.
He and there's a scene of like her like looking at the door and she's like really scared. I'm like, I don't think agoraphobes are afraid of just like a door.
Right.
And like she like is trying to like slowly crawl to the door, like, and it's like so painful just to even get. I'm like, in the last scene I saw her literally with her head out of the door, like. And it's very that, you know, I don't think that they completely understood what agoraphobes like are like, or what it would be like.
This was a highly researched film, Louie.
Clearly.
You know,
but
I think that you don't know.
Maybe. I saw a Shameless with Joan Cusack.
Yeah.
That's the only agoraphobe that I recognize.
By the way, any episode in which we can say Joan Cusack's name in unison is a blessed event.
Blessed event.
Thank you all for being here.
But it's funny. There were a lot of movies that I actually liked a lot more, even though there's just small parts in them.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, I mentioned earlier Mississippi Grind. She's in a scene. I fucking ended up loving Mississippi Grind in a way that I was not expecting to. She's had such an interesting career. I don't think, I think the other one that I don't, but it's not for her performance, is Cross Creek.
Yeah.
And I think she's good in the role. I think she's doing everything that's asked of her. But we've sort of talked about this before. I think there's many good performances in movies that people traditionally consider bad. Cross Creek is not considered a bad movie. She was nominated for Academy Award. I think upon revisiting, more people would be like, oh, this is not very good.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So maybe we should get into our 5-star reviews then.
Absolutely.
Here's the thing. I think I love and appreciate Alfre Woodard so much because her body of work, kind of in the same way we were talking about Regina King, it is such a good reflection of Black American culture.
Yeah.
And I just am so appreciative of seeing things where I'm like, this is not for me. This is for a Black audience who are going to love this so much. And I mean, like, Love and Basketball is the crown jewel, of, a rom-com teenage, for Black audiences. And she's barely in the movie. She plays the mom. But she's in a lot of movies like that I think, that I just like love so much. In What's Cooking, I thought that was like, really interesting. My pick is Miss Firecracker in 1989. There's no movie, there's no portrayal that she does that is like Popeye Jackson. She is, and I know we're going to insert a clip of her, but it's not going to do it justice because it is such a physical role.
Yes.
And she is so funny. She is so funny, and we don't get to see her be funny a lot of times.
No. And I do wish for that.
Yeah. And so there's like, Miss Firecracker is based on the Beth Henley play, Miss Firecracker Contest. And, she plays Popeye Jackson. She is a, seamstress, who the lead character, Carnell, has hired to help her make her, costumes for this, the Firecracker Contest. Carnell is an outsider. She is trying to, remake herself into something perhaps that she is not, all in the hopes for a little glory, a little respect in the community. It's alluded that she's kind of been a loose woman. She's called Little Miss Hot Tamale, but she says, "I'm going to church now."
I love her in that movie, by the way.
Yeah, she's so good. Everybody,
sorry, I'm not trying to distract you from.
No, but everyone is so good. I mean, Mary Steenburgen as Elaine, who won Miss Firecracker years ago, is just so cunty, but
yeah, you don't get to see Mary Steenburgen play too many villains, and that's another thing that I'd really like.
Yeah,
because I love her when she's there. I think there's just something so sweet about her that when she plays, when she hits those notes, you're just like, oh fuck, she's evil.
Yeah, and like this movie is like when Carnell goes to the like fashion shop to get a dress made, the woman and everyone's laughing at her. She's a try-hard kind of like outsider.
Yeah.
People
shock red hair.
She's like, you don't think it's too loud? And Elaine's like, well, it is certainly red. So she both Carnell and Popeye are these outsiders who are very earnest.
Yeah.
She plays Popeye with such zeal and just like any moment that could be awkward, she just kind of like picks her chin up, and she's got these huge glasses on, her big eyes. I mean, she already has big eyes as an actress, but they like really amplify them. And she has incredible scenes with both Carnell, Elaine, and
Tim Robbins.
Delmont,
who is maybe insane.
Yeah, Delmont, who is maybe insane, and there's so many layers to this story. You know, Beth Henley won the Pulitzer Prize.
Yeah,
that
deservedly
year.
so.
Yeah, and there's weird Carnell's cousins with Elaine and Delmont. Delmont and Elaine have like kind of a weirdly sexual relationship. There is something going on there. Their mom had a pituitary. I can't remember the word.
Pituitary?
That one. A gland problem. They replaced it with an apes. And
yes.
I mean, the movie's so funny, but it just keeps going. It's like, well, she did live 1 month longer than they thought she would.
But she grew black hairs all over her body.
and Delmont calls her our mama ape. When she meets Popeye, Popeye's like, well, I used to make costumes for bullfrogs and I sell them. They're really good pets. It's so funny. But the best scene with Popeye is when she meets Delmont and she explains why her name is Popeye. And she delivers the funniest line. She's like,
I'm Popeye Jackson. That's not my original name. I wasn't born with it. Actually, see, what happened was my brother, Lucky, he threw a handful of gravel in my eyes. And it was stinging. And then he gave me this little brown bottle of drops to put inside my eyes, telling me that it was drops for the eyes. In fact, it was drops for the ears, causing this burning sensation that made me scream out and cry like the devil. And I got me some glasses, and my eyes bulged out a little bit, and folks were just calling me Popeye. And the name kind of stuck with me, Popeye. That's how I got that name.
It's a very tragic tale.
Oh, no. Actually, the fortunate part of it is I can now hear voices through my eyes.
The movie is all very earnest, and it's just like, it reminds me like this is how you make a movie about the American South.
So she did recently in November did an Actors on Actors with Cynthia Erivo, and it's really great. But one of the things she talked about is her acting style. And all I could think of when she was talking about it was this movie, which is funny because this movie is so long ago now.
Yeah.
But she talked about when she was starting out.
You know, I was an odd child. Yeah. And you can either be odd and apologetic about it, or you can be really odd and just like, I'm not going away. Odd and loud and happy. So it felt like I was walking around, all my life on dry land, doing the breaststroke, and then people are like, oh yeah, Woodard, there she goes.
And that's instantly made me think of Popeye, because that's what her character kind of is. She doesn't get it, and you did it perfectly. And unfortunately, podcast is not a visual medium, but you did the picks her chin up.
Yeah,
and like
she does.
Yeah,
and because she is an outsider. She's a black woman. She's poorer. She lives on the other side of town. The movie doesn't shy away from like the distinction between these people.
Basically, kind of had to create her own function in life. That idea that she's making costumes for bullfrogs is not, it's out of necessity to keep herself fucking sane.
Right.
Like that's
and when she meets all these other people, she's like, okay, well, you're big and smart and whatever, but I'm here too. And I have a story to tell. And she talks and talks and talks about her brother and, how he got bit by a water moccasin once and he died. And and it just keeps going on, and she's not going to back down. And so she is such a strong character, but she's really fucking weird. Yeah. And I love it so much. I just want to protect her. But
I love that pick.
Yeah. Miss Firecracker, go find it. It's a fun movie. But it's also so emotional. And it's really about just wanting someone to look at you, and and in the end, it's about how silly a big contest is when if you can find someone to love you.
So it's funny. My 5-star review, I think, approaches a similar a similar thing from a very different aspect. And my 5-star review is 1992's Passion Fish. I had been meaning to watch this movie for a very long time. I like John Sayles a lot, and it was a blind spot for me. And I did not realize how much I would like it. And I genuinely think this is maybe my favorite John Sayles film. And he writes films mostly about men and mostly about white men. So it kind of shocked me that he would be able to capture both this white woman and this black woman so well. But I think what it is this is, as we mentioned before, it's a film about she's a soap star. She gets paralyzed. She has to go back home and reinsert herself into this life she left behind.
Yeah.
And
it's like she's reinserting herself into like Southern living also.
Yes. Yeah.
She's like has gotten rid of her accent and she looks down on where she's from.
But I almost don't think I think she started looking down on where she was from the moment she left. I don't think this is, and I think this is an aspect about this woman's personality that Mary Alice Culhane, which is Mary McDonald's character. By the way, Mary McDonald is an alumnus of my college as well. So yeah.
Is she still working?
Yeah, absolutely. She did Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
right.
and she also did what was the sequel series to The Closer? Special Crimes Unit or something like that. Special Crimes, I think, is
these crimes, they're special.
High crimes. I don't know. She did stuff. I love her to pieces. I do think she's an amazing actor. She moves back to her empty home in Louisiana. She starts drinking real hard, and she basically goes through one caregiver after another until she meets this woman named Chantel, who has her own problems. Chantel comes in. She really fucking needs this job. She's not going to take shit from Mary Alice, and she's a recovering addict. But what I like is the movie doesn't focus on these terrible, like the alcoholism is a big part of it. And obviously Chantel's like, you don't need this.
Right.
Like you need to stop lying to yourself.
Right.
And I do like also the movie takes time to put them in their roles. Like Chantel on her first day or second day, like leaves Mary Alice alone, and Mary Alice falls.
Yeah.
And she basically realizes like,
I need someone. I can't do this alone.
I can't do this alone. And also that Chantel can't, she needs to be there. She can't just go gallivanting around. Not that she was gallivanting, but there was a series of events that kept her away from the house.
She goes, right, and she meets like a guy, right, and there's like kind of like a little tryst, if you will.
Right. And so I think what I liked about this movie a lot is it's a really interesting character study. It's not the most exciting plot, really. No. It's kind of a series of visitors in a way.
Yeah.
She gets visited by her uncle, who's like a gay man. And it's funny because there's like that moment after he leaves between her and Chantel where she's just like, of course everybody in the family knew. And Chantel's like, yeah, it takes all kinds. Like that's all that's mentioned of it. Her higher class friends come. They're
like, is that you, Mary May?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my goodness.
Old friends, and they're talking about people they used to make fun of, and Mary Alice is like, that was me.
Yeah, that was me, you bitches.
Yeah. I think my favorite scene in the movie, or one of my favorite scenes, is when her co-stars come and visit, and you get
oh my god, I just remembered who they are.
Yeah, exactly. You get a very brief role from Angela Bassett in the film too. And all the stuff that happens in Mary Alice is really fascinating and really interesting, and it's great. And there's this amazing monologue that occurs during that scene. But also on the opposite side of that, there's a scene in which Angela Bassett and Alfre Woodard talk to each other in the kitchen, and they both realize they're from Chicago.
So, you from around here?
Chicago.
Really? Me too. Cooley High.
With the Sable.
Where'd you live?
Euclid Street.
Ooh, Bill Hill. Father must have been a doctor, huh? I'm from out of Cabrini Green.
It's a long way out.
Yeah. So, how's she doing?
See for yourself.
Oh, I don't think I could handle it.
You and her good friends.
We spent a lot of time together. Work, you know. Yeah. You two seem to get along pretty well.
We spend a lot of time together.
And what I love about that scene is you've spent so much time with Alfre Woodard, and probably due to personal biases, you think like, oh, well, she was not someone who was well off. She's this drug addict. And Angela Bassett comes in and she's like, where are you from? Alfre Woodard tells her where she's from. She's like, oh, you're rich. Like your daddy was a doctor, wasn't he? I come from Cabrini Green. And it's this amazing moment where it's like, oh, you as an audience have been assuming one thing.
Right.
But everybody has a story and everybody has, and that's what I find really fascinating is it's a not short movie. It's a little over 2 hours, but being such a character study, you really get to know these two people. You get to know their friendship, the way their lives work, the way things tick for them. You find out, you know, Alfre Woodard's character has a daughter who's been living with her father because she was an unfit mother.
Yeah.
She lost custody, and I don't know.
There's also a really good, like, Alfre Woodard is kind of like wingmanning for her.
Yes.
And bringing this like hot carpenter dude and they go like on the boats.
Yeah, David Strathairn.
Yeah. And
if I get that wrong, Dan Mecca, come at me.
Come at me. Get her, Jade. The title of the movie comes from when they're on the boats and they're catching passionfish and like cutting them open to like see, I don't know, their future or something.
Yeah, because it's a fish that eats the little fishes and the
yeah.
What's funny about that is when the movie came out, everybody was like, "Oh, like this Louisiana myth." John Sayles invented it.
What?
It's not a real thing.
It's not a real thing at all.
He made it up for the movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's making
exactly
myths up.
Yeah, I really loved the film, and I really loved sitting and existing with those characters. And, you know, it's quiet. It's not, and it's
very much
nice, and it's sweet, and it's not soapy by any means, which is funny because soap operas take up so much time in the movie. And
right. Yeah. It's funny because you see a lot of scenes of her in the soap opera.
Yeah.
And then when her friends come down, they're like, oh, well, then the car accident and amnesia, and they're talking about all these like ridiculous.
She's like, oh, and I'm pregnant now, and she's like, well, that's weird. Your character is sterile, and she's like, oh no, well, an alien knocked me up. That's the you know.
And so you have like that kind of parallel to the like quiet escape that they've made from both of their and literally as the movie goes on, Mary Alice. Her accent is coming back. And so that by the end of it, she is speaking again like a Southern woman.
And I also like the movie's kind of frank about her diagnosis. It's not like, oh, she's going to get better and everything's going to be fine. It's like, this is her new reality.
Yeah.
And
she hates it.
She hates it, but she has to adjust to it if she wants to continue on in this world. And Chantel basically has to tell her that constantly.
Yeah.
She's like, you can't drink yourself into a stupor every day. Like, this is it for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, you either go on or you don't. I don't know. It's a very personal, very quiet film. And I don't know. It's interesting, too, that we both picked Southern movies, but Alfre Woodard is not Southern in this film, No,
she's not.
Yeah. So... But anyways, was there anything else that stood out? I mean, I talked about Star Trek First Contact earlier.
Yeah, I think Crooklyn is like a must watch for everybody. I want to quickly mention a 2017 movie on Netflix called Burning Sands.
Yeah.
It's again a story that is for a Black audience. It is brutal, but not cruel, I thought.
Yeah.
And she's not a big part of it.
No, she has like 2-3 scenes.
Yeah.
Most.
And it's about the world of fraternities and specifically Black fraternities at historically Black colleges. It is kind of a heartbreaker. And it's at some points hard to watch. But again, I thought like she probably saw the script and was like, yes, we need to be talking about this.
Yeah.
And how we treat each other. Because the lies that we tell ourselves is that we hurt each other to honor each other, and in reality we're just fucking
especially men
and like the masculinity thing of like showing how tough you are, and in reality like it's a lie. We are lying to ourselves by saying that we put each other through hazing as an honorable thing,
Right.
and that's a lie. And I was very surprised. This is like a random Netflix movie that really didn't make
I didn't hear anything about it. And like you said, it came out 2 years ago too. So it was early on in Netflix attempt, to take over the film industry by buying things and producing them.
And just like full of like really talented young black actors.
Yeah. I really liked it too. I watched it on Friday. I do want to, real quick, before we move into our fast forward, I do want to say it's a bad movie and maybe not worth watching, but if you can find clips of her character from Beauty Shop, she just bursts into reciting Maya Angelou poems. Sometimes not even in the right moments. Sometimes just, she just finds one situated. And to me, it was so funny because it was that idea of like trying to be really high class. And but not,
I think what we're like responding to is like, we love her when she's funny.
Yes. Yeah.
She's so good.
Absolutely. But before we move into our fast forward, let's move into our mixed reviews review.
My 1-star review was 2000's Holiday Heart.
And my 1-star review is 2014's Annabelle.
My 5-star review was 1989's Miss Firecracker.
And my 5-star review was 1992's Passion Fish. Let's move in to our fast forward.
So we talked about that she has a movie out right now.
Yes.
I don't know that it will be out much longer, unfortunately.
But, then it'll get its existence on cable.
Right.
It'll come to a streaming service. And I don't know, it's a film called Clemency, and it's very much worth your time.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, hiccup.
You saw this.
Yes.
I was desperately trying to find, in New York City, the closest place you can go see it is in Staten Island or White Plains.
And nobody wants that.
So if it is at a specialty theater near you, please find it and watch it.
It's a female filmmaker. She's Nigerian. Her name is Chinua Chukwu. I could be doing that wrong. Please, forgive me. Seriously. I've not heard anybody pronounce her name before, so I'm
you're guessing.
I'm going off
fine.
of phonetics. It's a film in which Alfre Woodard plays a female warden at a death row prison, and her latest inmate to be that's up for execution, Anthony Woods, played by Aldous Hodges. He has a lot of appeal attempts that have failed. His lawyer, Richard Schiff, has been trying for years to get him off of death row, and it's just speeding towards this date. And you can see that these deaths, these executions have each one just takes a bit of her soul from her. It's a very, very quiet performance. Wendell Pierce plays her husband, and this is affecting her marriage in a really negative way. These years of this buildup.
How do you keep doing it?
I do my job. You want to play this good guys and bad guys. And I'm one of the bad guys. But I give these men respect, Marty.
There's all these amazing little turns in it. Danielle Brooks, who I think, most people know from Orange is the New Black. She has one scene in the movie, and it's a fucking killer scene. It's so, so good. And just this cast, I don't know. But the thing that Alfre Woodard's doing in this movie is exactly what we're talking about, where it's just real quiet and internal, and just, there's these moments where she just dazes out, and the camera just stays on her face. And maybe some of the best face acting I've seen in a long time. And it's frustrating because it's very clear that, like, this is an award-worthy performance
that people just ignored.
Yeah.
And
I'm not saying they wouldn't if she was white or if the subject matter was different. It's just really frustrating that it feels like that's definitely part of it. Because it is basically an anti-capital punishment film.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you could read it any other way.
Right. On her IMDb, there's only one other thing coming up for her. It says Fatherhood in 2021. There's not much. You know what I would love, though? I would love to see her back on stage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, man, and I have to believe, like, I bet she's so good on stage. because she's just such a physical actress. And so seeing her kind of like working, and like really like getting into a good, a play would just be, so incredible.
And the thing is she's 68.
Mm-hmm.
So she's not as young as she once was, though she is incredible looking.
Yeah.
She does not look 60.
She does not look 68.
Yeah, she's like the same age as my mom. And this is like no competition. Sorry, Mom. But that, you know, because she is so physical and so, but then again, you know, I just saw David Alan Grier in a Soldier's Play. In that show, he fucking throws himself down on the ground like 7-8 times.
No,
also in his mid-60s. So like, whatever.
Who knows?
Yeah, age is just a number. But like, I want her to, I want to see as much as I can before, you know, she retires. And like, I want, you know, I want to see her on stage. I want to see her do more comedies. And I really do like when she's funny. And I like when she's weird. And I like that she doesn't care if she's awkward. She says she loves playing villains because it's a part of her personality she can't tap into that much. And, and I don't know. I want all these things for her. But I more than anything, and this is out of her control, is I want the mainstream to recognize what a jewel she is.
Yeah.
And she's had a great career. That's not me saying she hasn't had a great career, but a lot of these things that we've talked about that we've loved have not been things in the mainstream.
Right.
Have not been roles that, you know, have been written for her or it's,
I mean, it truly, like, Meryl Streep is her contemporary, you know,
right.
They're both women of a certain age, and Alfre Woodard should be getting the same level of roles that Meryl's getting. And they're out there, you know, like, and you're right. Like, more things like Clemency should be made for Alfre Woodard, where she can, because a lot of, in both of our picks for 5 stars, she is a supporting cast.
Yeah.
Like, there's not a lot of movies where she is the lead, period, throughout her career. And so, like, Clemency, you know, I remember being like, oh wow, this is very clear. Like, on the poster, it is her.
Right.
And that is it. This movie was sold on her. And this performance. And, what's wild is that, like, she fucking killed it.
Right.
You know, and the people that did see it were like, this is an amazing career defining performance. And, like you said, the mainstream just ignored it.
And 2 things I do want to say real quick. One, we both picked early on in her career films, and I do not want to say that by picking those, we're saying that her only good work is back then. Obviously, Clemency is right up there for me in terms of her work, and I do want to point that out. I don't want anybody to say that we don't think she's at peak. She's doing, you know, she's doing the thing, and it's fantastic. The other thing I want to say is, I found an interview with her where she talked about that exact thing that you're talking about, where the roles are not out there in terms of these leads. And now that she's of a certain age, she's too old. You know, she said, like, what people are going to go see her in the Sojourner Truth biopic? Like, it's not, you know, so they're not out there and she recognizes she's, you know, a woman who's she's a woman of color over 50.
Yeah.
And she knows, like, these things are not going to come to her as often, which is, I mean, so unfortunate and indicative of the business that is film.
Right. Yeah. And I think I think about, like, I don't mean to compare, but, you know, of, say, like, her and Viola Davis, you know, Alfre Woodard has been working, I think, longer than she's older than Viola Davis. But they do kind of occupy the same space of, like, strong black woman.
Yeah.
But, and they're both dark-skinned women.
Yeah.
They both talked about how, like, they didn't, I mean, Alfre Woodard worked when she was younger also, but really not, like, breaking through to the mainstream until later in your career. Yeah, it's interesting.
They did an Oprah roundtable. It was her and Viola Davis and Felicia Rashad, and they're talking about competition amongst.
Every time I would hear the name of another woman actor who's African American, it was your manager or your agent or the agency going, you know, oh God, okay, I hope I hope she turns it down. If she turns it down. So it was like every time I would hear
my sister's name's called, it would be with that, and so I'd have to negate. And I'm like, well, you know, you negate that. It's just it's a spiritual practice I've had. But I realized that all of us had more in common with each other than we did with anybody else in the world. We have our friends, our loved ones, our family, but there is a language that we speak, that we walk that same walk everywhere. We know how it feels.
But it's because the roles, the pool, the percentage is so small.
Yeah, Hollywood makes them believe that
Yeah.
it is a competition because they only give like one role out for,
Yeah.
you know, per big movie. And it's like, we should be making the pool bigger.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's it, you know. There's plenty of, the talent is all there.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think she's had an excellent career, varied. She gets to do all sorts of things. And I hope that now we still get more. I hope.
Well, I mean, she's put in the hard yards and she's done everything, you know, as an activist, as an actor, she's done everything she can. And I just think it's, you know, my criticism is not for her, it's for the system that she's unfortunately in, is that they need to start recognizing the brilliance, whether it be giving her the roles, you know, creating these roles that need to be seen with her in them, or rewarding her for them so she's seen as the prestige that she is.
Yeah, totally. And let it begin with us.
Exactly.
Here in our 2019, the mixed reviews, so saith Alfre Woodard.
we
salute
coronate you.
Yes.
But yeah, so I think that wraps up Alfre Woodard. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. As always, you can find us online on Twitter at The Mixed Reviews.
We're on Facebook. Just type in The Mixed Reviews.
You can email us at reviewsmixed@gmail.com.
We're also on Instagram, where Gavin posts all of our good extra goodies and content at _mixed_reviews. It's good stuff.
And if you want to listen to us, you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartMedia, Google Play Music. And also, if you do listen to us on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review us. Leave us a nice 5-star review. Write us a little love note, and we'll read it on the air. We actually did get one recently, and I'll read it next episode. I promise.
There you go. And keep a lookout for our Twitter poll is back officially now that we have a singular
back again.
Back rolls. So yeah, until then, guys, we'll see you on the flip.
Absolutely.
Bye.